Hi. Our strategy group consisted of Duffy, Heidi, Dale and myself. Our group focused on a way to promote the role that women play in the seafood industry. We want to show women outside the industry that this is a great industry to choose, there is a diverse range of jobs available, and that women are passionate in our industry. The hope is that young women coming out of uni or looking for a career path will be able to connect with the women we've chosen and become aware of what the seafood industry can offer. To execute this, we're creating a calendar, each month with a different passionate woman in our industry from a different sector telling their story. But I think it's important to talk a bit about why we need to focus on this cause, the benefits it could bring to our industry, and why a calendar would be an effective tool to execute this. So gender diversity across the whole industry is actually pretty close to a 50-50 split. That's not exactly what we're arguing for. The truth is the majority of these women make up the low-end jobs, and the higher up you look in the industry, the fewer women we see. Let me repeat that. The higher up you look in the industry, the fewer women we see. And that's a problem. If any of you don't believe or are still unsure that this underrepresentation exists in our industry today, this graph shows the gender split across the most recent FRDC rack positions, which were just appointed. This isn't a stat at FRDC. You could change your title to a number of areas in the seafood industry and get the same result. It's just it's a snapshot of where our industry is at. There's a clear perception from the outside looking in that this whole sector presents poor career opportunities for women. And research even shows that parents are starting to angle their kids away from the industry as a result of this perception. It's concerning to see the talent this industry is missing out on simply because women aren't aware of jobs or career paths or the lifestyle on offer. We're in competition with every other industry for the best talent available that will push our industry forward. If the majority of half the population aren't even considering the seafood industry as a career choice, our industry suffers as a result. So our calendar tries to address these issues. We're going to show the great range of jobs available and that women in the industry love being there. This isn't just about making the industry look good. Working towards having more women enter for a wider range of jobs than they are currently will benefit the sector economically and help our industry grow. Research shows this. It shows, for example, a strong link between the presence of women in corporate leadership and positive firm performance. It shows that diversity improves innovation and growth. So having women not come into the workforce looking for a more diverse range of positions has the potential to weaken this industry's ambitions for the future. If the seafood industry is serious about innovating and growing, we need to start improving gender diversity. So I think for our industry, making women choose us over others is a worthwhile cause. Anyway, so I think we need to treat how we can start addressing this problem like running an advertisement. An advertisement to women to select our industry. With the funds we have to reasonably make this a reality, a calendar as a marketing tool is actually extremely effective. First, once it's set up, we get exposure for our ad for the whole year. This isn't just the recipient of the calendar, of course, but anyone that happens to walk past and see it on the wall. You just don't get this longevity from traditional advertisements. It's also great at building a brand. Over 77% of people can remember the product on their calendars, and over 61% have a more favourable impression of that product than they did prior. And it's great return on investment. If you consider the cost, the longevity of the ad, and the amount of people that walk past and see it each day throughout the whole year, then the cost per impression per person offers great return. 10 times better than the newspaper ad would, and up to 20 times better than the spot on radio. This is a long-term issue, and it's not a normal approach to addressing it. The calendar idea starts to dip into nudge or behavioural economics, where the idea is that an indirect suggestion can motivate or influence groups more effectively than direct instruction or legislation would. It's an important topic for our industry to improve on, and I think if we can get these calendars into schools or offices or households, and we can get our story out there, then as a group we will have succeeded. Now I'll pass it on to Dale, who will talk about the process.
Hi everyone. So Dom's told you why a calendar. I'm now going to tell you what we did, how we actually did it. So the idea was produce a calendar, but then we thought, how can we actually make this more? So we came up with the idea of not just doing the calendar itself, but also giving the profiles and the background information for who these women actually are, and why they're in the industry, and why anyone should care. So, along with developing the profiles, we decided that we could then use these images and the profiles themselves to highlight the broader seafood industry for International Women's Day on March 8th, 2017. And on that day, we're going to use the images and the supporting profiles in an exhibition, hopefully in a museum, and we're hoping to get Assistant Minister for Fisheries, Anne Rushton, to launch it. So with any project, one of the biggest things is funding. We knew that what we wanted to do was to hopefully get it distributed to the 16,500 members in the December issue of Fish. And initially we thought we'd need about $10,000 for funding, for printing. The reality was that after we're sending out a bunch of requests for funding, we managed to get a commitment of $2,000 from WAFIC towards that $10,000. What we then didn't foresee was the unexpected cost of distribution. We thought about all the printing, we didn't think about how we'd actually get them out with the magazines. And that was another $15,000 on top that we just didn't foresee. And then the issue that, again, none of us thought about was, once we actually got money, how do we manage it? Who holds on to it? Who's responsible for it? Where is the accountability? Aside from all those issues, we also had who do we approach? So to come up with this, what we did was we developed a letter template that we could send out to our prospective women. The template identified who we were as the National Seafood Industry Leadership Program, what our vision and mission was, and how our strategy would support the greater seafood industry. It also detailed our concept and how we plan to implement it, and asked them whether or not they'd be interested. We had an ideal list of women. Our ideal is not necessarily theirs, so we then had to come up with, when we got rejection letters, which we did get a couple, how do we respond to that? Nicely, say thank you for your time. And then what's our contingency? Who do we get to fill those roles? Within selecting candidates, we knew that we wanted to be broad. We're a national program, we wanted to be all over Australia. We didn't manage to hit every state, but we got pretty damn close. The only one that let us down was ACT. And that's only because they pulled out last week. We had someone from ACT. From there, we also said, we're broad. We were guided here by our mission statement, raising the profile of our industry by highlighting the diversity and the opportunities in the broader seafood sector, or network, which meant selecting candidates across a broad range of sectors within the seafood industry. So here we identified science, management, wild catch, aquaculture, NGOs, the aquarium trade, industry councils, wholesale, retail, indigenous, recreational, and hospitality. We hit every single one of these with our candidates, and every single candidate crosses into at least 2, if not 3 of these sectors. We're really happy. From here, I'm now going to hand you to Heidi, who's going to introduce you to the people that we found.
Thanks, Dale. Hi, everyone. So our team has pulled together a group of inspiring, passionate women who represent the broader seafood network. Today I have the pleasure of introducing them to you. First up, we have Joanne McRae. Jo is the Australian Fisheries and Seafood Manager at WWF Australia. Next we have Marissa Tabai and Dukasha Friel, both Development Support Officers at the Northern Territory Department of Primary Industries and Resources. We have Veronica Papacosta, owner-operator at Sydney Fresh Seafood. Nadine Adams, first mate on the FP Ocean Fleet, one of Austral's fisheries vessels in their northern prawn fleet. Nadine is addicted to the fast-paced environment and is working towards getting her Master 5 skipper's ticket. We have Claire Webber, Research and Liaison Officer at the Australian Southern Bluefin Tuna Association. Annie Jarrett, Chief Executive Officer at the Northern Prawn Fishery Industry. We have Meredith F, Communications and Marketing Manager at the Marine Stewardship Council. And Emma Woodcock, Project Officer at the Tasmanian Seafood Industry Council. Carolyn Tesla is the Packing Manager at Monsoon Aquatics, and my colleague Christine Hun is the Company Veterinarian at Tassal in Tasmania. We have Heather Brayford, Director General, and Rhiannon Jones, Fisheries Management Officer, both from the Western Australia Department of Fisheries. And finally, Anna Lamb, Asian Restaurant Manager at Gossi Seafood, Sydney Fish Market. Our candidates have provided us with some fantastic content that we believe will achieve our goal of highlighting the contribution of women in our industry and inspire women to consider career opportunities within the seafood industry. Quotes include, "I firmly believe that more women should be involved in the industry, and I hope that my experience will set an example that others may follow. Mentoring, stewardship, and building awareness of the variety of careers in the industry is the best way to encourage other young women into the industry. The best way I can promote more women in the workplace is to speak positively and enthusiastically about my role, something I find easy to do because I love my job. There's opportunities to grow and be creative, to lead business, be captains, and impact the industry for the better. I believe if more women become involved in seafood, the transition to a united seafood industry will be faster and smoother."
That wasn't you.
It wasn't written down that
I completely agree.
one. A strong united seafood industry is required for a prosperous future. Women have an important role to play when bringing different views together, working through any differences, and finding mutually beneficial outcomes. Increasing the professional image of the fishing industry will encourage more females to seek a career in the fields of fishing and aquaculture. And finally, when asked what opportunities existed for women in our industry, one candidate responded, "Directors, managers, operations, technical, research, marketing, communications, safety, compliance, entrepreneurs, the list is endless, so step up." It was wonderful to see how frequently the word united was used by our candidates in the questionnaires. Working on this project and further understanding the diverse opportunities available within it has made me even more proud to be part of this industry. So where to next? As Dale mentioned, we missed the deadline for distribution with the December edition of Fish Magazine, but we're not giving up. We have begun and have capacity to complete an electronic version of the calendar that can be downloaded and printed, and we'll be approaching FRDC very shortly to discuss the possibility of distributing it with the online version of Fish. We'll also continue to develop our content into a format that we can form an exhibition that we're hopeful will be launched in line with International Women's Day in 2017. So I'll now pass you over to my fellow participant, John Duffy from WAFIC, and he's going to cover what we learned. Oh.
Thanks, Heidi.
No.
This one?
Yep.
Thanks, Heidi. I see everyone's been listening very carefully today, and so I assume you all like stories. So this afternoon I intend to use Dr. Zeus to illustrate the leadership journey that Highlighters program team have been on for the past 18 months. My introduction to the fishing and seafood industry was as a media advisor to WA Fisheries Minister Norman Moore in 2008. My knowledge and experience of fishing had been pretty limited until then, but boy has that changed, although there's still a lot to learn. Working as a communications and programs officer for WAFIC has allowed me to recognise the intense complexity of our vital industry, and it's also enabled me to see how my skill set can be put to good use in communicating the importance of that industry to the broader community. That's why I wanted to be on this course, along with my colleagues who no doubt have their own reasons. But enough about me. I'd like you to take a look at Sam I Am from Dr. Zeus's green eggs in hand. That's the little critter at the bottom of the slide, and a central character in a children's parable about the rewards of perseverance. His story, or hers, come to think of it, illustrates much of the journey that I and my team members have been on for the past 8 months. Sam and I had a great concept, and so did we. But as we shall see, and as our leadership learning number 1, a great concept and winning candidates don't automatically deliver on a project. At an internal level, initially, we had some initial disquiet about targeting women for a calendar project. The obvious connotations of linking the word women and calendar made a couple of us worried that it might be hard to pitch to prospective participants. And then there are the inevitable questions about why choose women? Why not Indigenous fishers? Why not NSILP graduates? Why not any other discrete sector of the seafood industry? We stuck with women, and our resistance changed as our willing engagement as we developed the concept. It highlighted for us as a group the importance of creating buy-in and ownership of a project by everyone involved. I think this is a great insight for would-be leaders. Another learning we gained was the need for the early definition and allocation of roles and the various timeframes required to deliver a project. Dale has spoken about how we chose to approach candidates using a matrix that took into account where they worked and what kind of job they had. This was to maximise our reach into highlighting different career paths within the industry, and also to reach an audience in all states and territories. In agreeing to this approach, each of us took responsibility for 2 states or territories and took it in turn across the past 13 weeks to take the leadership role for our project. Taking lead required an active communication process, which wasn't always possible. Day jobs, media campaigns, crisis mitigation, personal health issues, and life in general had a habit of getting in the way of our best laid plans quite often. And speaking of issues beyond our control, we learnt that if you don't have the skills in-house to deliver a project, then you're going to have to outsource. And if you're going to have to outsource, you need to make sure you've got the money. If you don't have the money, you don't have the project. We developed a very nice template, as Dale's told you, seeking money from a variety of sources to help deliver our version of green eggs in hand. It was a very polite letter, and it got a number of very polite refusals, which demonstrates 2 clear learnings. There's a need to persist, and there's a need to prepare for and to deal with rejection, which personally I hate. Rejection sucks. But as an old man used to say, if a thing's worth doing, it's worth doing badly. His message being, if you hang around waiting until you can do something perfectly, you'll never do anything at all. Still, rejection is rare, and what we learned on finding out that we wouldn't be able to raise the required money that we needed to deliver our original concept and hit the design deadline that was required to achieve the FRDC's printing deadline that was necessary in order to get the calendars distributed in time for the start of 2017 and reach a national audience of 16,500. We found out that circumstances change, and as a leader, it's crucial that you can adapt to change. You need to be nimble, flexible, and able to maintain a semblance of equanimity, if not an outright sense of humour. You also can't afford to play the internal blame game. It doesn't help. I've already spoken of the need for persistence and perseverance. Sometimes it works. Hunt your candidates down. Target your audience of in-kind supporters. Back your financiers into a corner and then give them a taste test. You may find they like it, in which case the project's a success, and the learning you take away from that is, how do I repeat it? Going through this process over the past 8 months has given me and my colleagues an opportunity to develop our skills and reflect. And as our project now stands, we have the passion and drive to follow it through, which leads us to our final learning, using the combined bulk of our newfound experience. I'll now hand you over to Emma from the C events team. Thank you very much.